Can you guys hear us? So, Joel, we are getting people in the Zoom room who cannot hear us right now. They have no sound.
All right, I'll address it. We're live.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to another Teachings Advanced. With me, the Galactic Historian Andrew Bartzis. I'm joined by Lady Laura Massey and Lord Dale Tobin. Welcome to the show today.
Hi,
Hello,
Andrew.
guys. And hi, Andrew. It's a welcome, an honor to be on again. Hello, everyone in the Zoom room and watching on Rumble YouTube. Hello.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Dale's got his radio voice today.
Yeah, I woke up just this morning and it just popped out, Andrew. Just popped out.
Popped right out. Wow. All right, so with that being said, we are going to be talking about the mer folks today. But we have a quick technological announcement for everyone. We are having a breakup with Zoom. It has been a long and awful relationship at times. It has provided some uniquely good times, but as a broadcast system and source, it absolutely sucks. It fails the entire relationship test. Okay? We got another troll in the chat room there, Joel. Yes, we are breaking up with Zoom, and it's a reason for that is because the amount of people that are Zoom bombing, not just us, but from every other places. Yeah. 1 second here. All right. Can you guys in the Zoom room hear or not? That is the other reason we're having ongoing issues, is Zoom is not being compatible with the advancing types of technology that we want to use. Yeah, so they can't hear us on that other side.
Yeah.
So we are going to be having a breakup with Zoom. Yes, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of you who are going to be sad, but we are going to be replacing it probably with a Discord server, which is a online voice over IP system that allows everybody anywhere to listen in, call in, use what we want to use. Anyways, that is ultimately what you're going to be experiencing. With that being said, Laura, do you have any last words you'd like to use before we get rid of our last Zoom show? I cannot hear you, Laura.
You are muted, Laura.
Okay, he's unmuted me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm rings back at YouTube after our relationship.
Throwing the rings back?
Yeah,
How many rings did you get from you, Zoom?
Many. Throwing them back, writing an "it's over" letter.
Yes, that's right. Will we be switching to something like Discord? But Zoom is absolutely failing as a platform to continue broadcasting. They do not give us, they want to charge you double for what you're doing, double for more people entering, and so on and so forth. It's just not going to add up as a viable business model to continue to promote. Dale, any last words you'd like to say?
So I'd just like to say it's been good, Zoom. We've had our ups and downs or in-betweens, but you're a bit perverted, so unfortunately I'm going to have to take my time and say goodbye. But thank you for the memories.
Yes.
It's been fun.
So with that said, Zoom, we love you, but we're done with you. We now break all contracts, vows, and agreements with Zoom and every dimension, time stream, galaxy, and universe as a broadcast point, source, position, place, in space and time. We can no longer use you because you are a ripoff of a product. And the features that you give us make it virtually impossible to create a show that's in conjunction with what actually a show should look like. You've attempted to say, yes, 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 but you are a fake-it-to-make-it program. So, Zoom, you have faked it to the point we've replaced you, And yes, everybody, this will be the last show where we'll be featuring Zoom. We will be setting up a Discord server. Please go to andrewbartzis.com. Sign up for the email list if you have not signed up. The email list just tells you when the shows are coming and what things are going on with the various shows that we have going up, as well as all the links to get everywhere. If you are one of those people that is worried, I've never used Discord, we're going to be putting out a how-to-use video on Zoom, on Discord, and we're going to make it very easy for everyone that's out there. And that's right, Zoom is a fake-it-to-make-it program. And we've had to stitch together shit just to get a show together today because Zoom is one of those 16,500 words I can't say in the beginning of a YouTube show. With that being said, we are breaking up with YouTube too, okay? We could go to Rumble right now, and that's going to be our main broadcast source from now moving forward because YouTube has now given me a deadline. If I do not accept the new terms of service by March the 15th, I am fully demonetized. And what are those new terms of service? The 16,500 words they don't want you to say, as well as you can no longer sue them in any way, shape, or form. If you would like to go and read your create or email and the change in the terms of service, you will be shocked at what they are doing. They're making it impossible for mid and low level creators to actually get any form of traction or move. With that being said, we must evolve. And this is that moment of evolution.
And we'll be offering a 12-step Zoom program at some point as well, if anybody wants one.
A 12-step Zoom program?
How to leave them the 12 steps.
Yes. Yeah. With that said, let's talk about merfolk. Let's talk about merfolk. That's right. We are going to be discussing all things that swim in the ocean and might be related to us, body, mind, and spirit, soul family.
We are, but
So,
no one
the
can hear
merfolk.
me.
So, a starting point, Andrew. So, a lot of us have this expectation of a mermaid to be this pretty lady in the sea. So,
Yes.
could we go into the types of realms and what skin suits these merfolk have?
Yes, they have scales, half human, half fish. Now, that is an anthropomorphization. There are plenty of merfolk who look humanoid, but don't look half human, half fish. Those are chimera beings. The ones that are in between magic and science, where souls were bonded to create an offspring, to create something that is more viable for soul families to interact over with long periods of time. Chimeric-based bodies are short-term ways of cheating the spirit incarnation system to force a body to come alive with a soul spark in it. Merfolk are not that. They're a part of the natural evolution of humankind, or humanoid relationships, part of the 989,000 different lineages of humans. They just were adapted to water, whether it was saline-based water, deep underground cavern water with no light, or it was just a amphibious nature. Now, frogs have an amphibious nature, and they have all sorts of things inside their DNA that make them extremely viable for next-level wisdom creation within humanity. That's the frog. Now, the same thing happened with merfolk. Because they're amphibians and they can think in different ways, places, and shapes, it gives them different ways to explore multidimensionality function. Imagine you growing up swimming instead of walking, adding another dimension to your perception for your entire life. Okay? And then having to deal with pressure. Okay? Pressure is a huge thing for anything that's under the water. The temperature changes. Far more sensitive to that in the greater process, which then changes their lifestyle again and again and again. So what do they look like? They could have hard scales, they could have very light scales, they could have no scales. They can look humanoid-ish with no fins, but they have webbing on the inside of their feet and their toes, as well as hands and feet that can kind of just go like this, and they get a lot bigger, double in length. They have like an umbrella hands that can just open up and grab more water and make more motion. Many of them breathe water through their skin. They don't have gills. There are gill-based ones, but most of those don't have extended lifetimes. They usually have like 60, 90-year lifespans, where many more merfolk have a 300 to 500-year lifespan.
We don't hear much about mermen, Andrew. So is it the fact that they brought on mermaids as the sirens who lured the ships to their doom,
So
and
we
just
have
to reduce their power?
so we have two myths interacting in here, plus the superstition of the Dark Ages here. So Theseus, the Greek trailer, he's the one that introduced the myth of the sirens. Sirens were known about long before that, but that's the myth that solidified it into history. And then Theseus put cotton in everyone's ears, and then they killed them. But they did not look like beautiful women from the very beginning. They were just a distant singing voice luring them to their doom. And then you have dark aging sailors who had no real fresh water to drink and drank alcohol day and night. Drunk, to complete and total drunkards with a high level of superstition and no women allowed on the boat for months or years at a time. So imagine you're a man who's drunk and there's only about a bunch of men and you hear this weird thing on the thing and the first thing that comes on your mind, it's a woman singing to me. That superstition is what played into the never-ending concept that merfolk women do that. Now, mermen have many historical references through culture in which they attacked ships as well as saved members of ships. And it wasn't just the one blue princess saving one guy. That's all Disneyland stuff. Many situations, historical characters of myth were saved by merfolk men. They were the followers of Poseidon or whatever ocean god that was said there at that time. Now, merfolks do have a god-based system like we do. It just doesn't function the same way as Christianity or Hinduism or Muslim, etc. It's a completely different process. It's far more earth-oriented. But it also has its negative aspects within it, which can make minds easily hijackable. So, but that was installed from the very beginning because merfolk are still part of the surface population that is a part of a DNA experiment, which is a lot of what modern light workers who think we're all part of this community, it's just humans. No, it's not just humans. It's anything that's consciousness on the surface of the world, and the underwater of the surface is still the surface of this world. It's when you reach around 40 to 70 kilometers below the surface does subsurface life begin.
So how do they give birth to their young?
So some give birth by eggs, where they're then seeded by male, like a standard egg and fish, and there are others that are completely mammal births.
Sorry, excuse me a moment. Joel, have I still got an echo I need to address?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it was just echoing when Andrew was talking. You had your mic off mute, so yeah, just put it on mute when Andrew or I talk, and the echo disappears.
Okay, fine. So, what are mermaids here to? Are they here to trigger something within our DNA, like memories or?
So let's take mermaid out of the language process here, because superstition, myth, and folk history absolutely confuse its purpose. Why are the women of the sea the ones that are saving? It's everything in the sea is saving. But at the same time, it also wants to be saved. So there is absolute an influence from the subsurface world to change the surface worlds. But the subsurface world has been looked down upon by the surface world and the surface rulers for a very long time. They are considered secondary spiritual citizens of this world if you are in the sub-aquatic worlds. And it's the surface worlds through the positions of domination and control and the force of getting people to the surface worlds instead of having subsurface lives, which creates two forms of spiritual citizenry here. And they no longer want to have a secondary spiritual citizenship process.
So really, are these merfolk celestial technology then?
Say that again?
So are these merfolk the I am technology, but the celestial, are these celestial connected as well, have that celestial source?
Yes, they have the celestial technology, except they don't they don't have the same form of seated philosophies that we have here. They have an ocean-based, connective-based religion that is potent and powerful, but it doesn't have the ascended master teachings, though they do exist down there. And when they spread too rapidly, there ends up being a culling of those societies that learn too fast. Because many of the merfolk people can absolutely outbreed the surface world way faster than humans can. Yes, they are celestial mediums as well, but their journey to it is different than humans, surface living humans. Until such a time there is a far more balance between surface and subsurface realities, meaning both acknowledge each other, exist with histories.
So for the setup of the, say, astral cities down there, is it a lot like here with the many different astral cities available? It's exactly the same, but just in the ocean.
So astral cities for ocean worlds have similar positions in the astral societies, but subsurface astral worlds have different set of rules. You can't go from a surface astral world to a subsurface astral world without making the transition of energy and pressure. So there's a transition period. You can't just instantly teleport into it.
So how can we best assist them now? What is it they need? Like, they need relevance now? They need a voice now?
Well, how do you give them relevance and voice?
I go down to the waters and play my flute to them and listen. And listen and just try and, receive messages from them.
Mm-hmm. That is doing what? Exactly.
For me, it's making them relevant now.
Okay. And how would you make them relevant on a bigger scale?
Talking about them on a show here now.
There you go. We are doing that.
I see, yes,
Are
of
we
course.
giving them direct voice like dragons? No. We're saying that which is out superstition, myth, and history is not all the truth about them. And there's a whole other way to see them. And we're absolutely spiritually entwined in the journey. Many, many, many of us have lived merfolk life and us vice versa, back and forth. But the way the subsurface, the deep subsurface rulers want, they want two classes of souls. The souls that they know that they can harvest through domination and control, and then the secondary souls, which they know they can harvest, but are not going to get as much energy out of the ones that are on the surface. The backup DNA to use.
So talking about DNA, is it the egg technology with how they breed then? It's kind of like the fetus in the womb, but an egg technology for their breeding.
So egg and fetus in the womb, the perceptions of the infinite growth are different. So there is a difference between them, but they still do the same thing at the end. Now, is there anybody in the chat room that wants to make any direct questions about merfolk?
Is there a relationship between dragons and merfolk from Never Not Now?
Yes, absolutely there is. Just every living thing has access to a dragon, if it's long as it's consciousness, on the surface of the world and subsurface of the world. They just present themselves differently to it.
And both of them have been put into myth by the system, haven't they?
Correct. The myth by the system, yes.
Okay, do I sound quiet? Do I need my
Sometimes
mic
you do.
nearer?
Sometimes you do, yes.
Shanina said, almost afraid of being heard. Please up the volume on your mic. Okay, let's see. No, it's maximum. Okay, maybe that's a bit better.
So
Okay.
regarding like ancestral offerings, Andrew, to the ocean, is that what are some of the offerings you could give to the land, as in, well, not the land, sorry, wrong words, to the ocean as an offering, if
Well,
people
don't
wanted to
give
do
them
that,
fish.
or is it stepping on journey?
Don't give them fish and chips.
Start throwing in some fish and chips.
Okay.
Just
Don't give
floating
him
this
fish and
dirty
chips.
chip.
The best thing you can do with offerings at the beginning is understanding how to give them wisdom. Wisdom that can apply to whether they have fins or hands. It doesn't matter. Good wisdom from soul-based experiences, situations of love, and how you overcame the negatives of love, etc., etc., etc. And then when you're ready to give bigger offerings, it's offerings of prayer for their future generations and their current generations, that they can let go of their traumas, pains, and angers.
So, what's it like compared to kind of like Hollow Earth? You know, like political down there. Is there any politics?
Oh, it's just
or...
as political here. And there's
Yeah.
there's the Trump merman down there. There's a version of Trump merman. Okay. And instead of Atlantis Hotel and Casino, he's got the New York Hotel and Casino. Okay.
How do I have access to a dragon? You need to go and listen to our show last week. I think that was the dragon one, wasn't it, last week?
Yep.
Okay, do merfolk live in bodies of water that are not the oceans or seas?
Yes. Our entire world is scattered with subterranean freshwater oceans and saltwater oceans. So if you were to look at the Andean mountains in South America and follow the mountain chain all the way up to North America, that's known as the spine of Earth Mother. Deep under that are massive underground well springs of water stored, some salt, some freshwater, some brackish. But there's hundreds of thousands of miles within that spine of the Earth Mother, and wherever there are giant mountain chains connected, of underwater tunnels, tunnels and spaces and places separate of the oceans or Great Lakes.
So leading on from that, how do the underwater cities of humans interact with merfolk?
You sound really faded away now.
I'm right here. I'm here. Maybe it's my connection. Can't hear me?
No, it's better now. It's better now.
Yeah, better now.
Okay. So where were we? How do the underwater cities connect with merfolk was someone's question.
How do the underwater cities connect
The
with
city of humans interact with merfolk.
They don't, other than us throwing our garbage on them. There's complete separateness from societies. They don't want us to even know anything consciously is living on the subsurface, let alone anything's more conscious than a human being on the surface. The domination's control is to keep humans human-centric to consciousness. And as long as we are human-centric to consciousness, domination and control wins. As soon as humans start acknowledging that our dogs, our cats, our pets, our loved ones all have a full consciousness with a spiritual journey behind them and ahead of them, that is where we begin to advance as a unique spiritual culture that can acknowledge consciousness exists in all layers of our reality. And that consciousness gets responsibilities like not stepping on its journey, which includes dogs and cats, merfolk and mermen and whales and so on and so forth.
What is it
So they want to keep you they want to keep you distracted what's going on in the country to not observe the ocean, so everything's kind of in here. When was the last time you were able to see a merfolk actually in the eyesight? How long ago?
So you're referring on video or me personally?
Well, just in general, when the two-legged walked with him and were able to go, oh, hi, John, hi, Steve. Oh, how are you doing down there?
Oh, it has been hundreds of thousands of years for that to happen. Maybe 180,000 years. So there was a golden age long before our dark age. And that golden age lasted from like 800,000 years ago to around 200,000 years ago. And right around 200,000 years is with the golden age. Well, it wasn't so golden. Yeah, it's definitely losing its gold. It's silver now. Wow, we got a little tin in the silver. Until this is worthless. That journey from 200,000 is where the surface world living beings began to have a separation between the subsurface world people. And it took that long in surface and subsurface and subaquatic surface evolution to begin separating their frequencies of unified time and disunifying everyone's time. And which was a part of a longer term goal to temporally seed perception through incarnation. Just as one would geoengineer a planet, they needed geoengineer time and the separations of time, so soul families would no longer be sharing unique experiences, surface, subsurface, subterranean, and galactic and intergalactic.
Why did the system? Why was it able to reduce dragons and merfolk to myth, but they didn't do that with the whales? Well, they haven't done it with the whales.
Whales are a great myth. There's an entire culture of whale hunting societies that venerated them in the 17 and the 1800s. Even though they were killing them off en masse, they were highly venerated in artwork, song and tales and stuff, like even Moby Dick.
Oh,
It's
yes,
about
of course,
this,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So it is. It's just
Yeah,
passing
yes.
out of our modern culture because that culture is no longer relevant today. You can imagine telling a millennial you had to, if you wanted to write a book, you needed a whale oil lamp in your house, and everyone burned whale oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine a millennial. Well, we've got to burn whale oil to okay? 90% of the world was lit by whale oil.
Can they travel interdimensionally with technology?
Yes, they can.
Oh, is gravity a factor for merfolk?
Yes, it is. Gravity and pressure. They are also gravity sensitive, meaning they have an electromagnetic field that they can produce in small spurts that is almost like a short anti-gravity burst, which allows them to stay motionless or increase their motionary speed.
And so for the cities, like when there's a womb chakra or a ley line, what would they do to work and commune with the actual land? Not the land, I keep saying land. Commune with the actual ley line itself or the womb chakra. Do they seem to live near the areas of the ley lines or
Yes,
whereabouts?
just like we do.
Yeah.
Just like we do.
Okay.
My daughter thinks she's part of a mermaid. How is this possible? From Denise.
Humans and mermaids have been interchanging lifetimes for thousands of years, just like humans and horses have. There's the thing you got to remember, the terms I used earlier. Surface world beings in the system of domination and control are the top citizens they want to harvest energy from, which includes horses. Subterranean, sub-oceanary beings are second-class citizens for harvesting. It is harder to harvest energy off of them, but it's not impossible. So if there was ever a destruction of the surface population, their subsurface could rapidly, the subsurface repopulation could repopulate, and they would never really lose their energy. It's a backup system. So yes, absolutely, you could have merfolk DNA in you. You could have merfolk, dragon, this and that. You could have everything. It's what's activated this lifetime, and then what do you do with it? If she's got mermaid stuff, say, you know what? You ever you go do diving, highboard diving, breaststroke, and say you can always run for the Olympics and prove you're a mermaid. Okay? Motivator.
So you're saying a lot of these Olympic swimmers have been merfolk in the past with their ability to be so fucking good at swimming?
Yes. Do they migrate like whales? No. But there are societies in the merfolk community who are very nomadic and kind of like hunter-gatherers. They go from place to place. They follow the fish. But wherever there's a really big population of merfolk, they also have a semi-subterranean city that doesn't live on the surface floor of the ocean.
So is there part of our DNA that is merfolk? Don't know.
Correct.
Do you mean everybody's DNA?
It is technically in everyone's DNA. But there are certain lineages that it's been kept out of.
For what reason?
Fate. Karma.
Okay, yeah.
I do not know all the whims of the universe, Laura.
Oh,
It is a big
Andrew.
universe.
I
It
thought you
universes all the time.
I know. The universe doesn't stop universing.
Is there a food chain in the ocean realms? Like,
Yes, there's
the
an
meteor-
absolute food chain, and it's considered their holy energy and what they support and survive, and it's what many of their religions are based off of. And if you understand the great food chain of life, if it breaks down, everything fails, including the surface world. And that's why sub-Aquarian species, their energies are about supporting the great food chain at all aspects. And it's what makes them, how do I put it? Great serving beings to domination and control, because domination and control can threaten the great food chain very easily. Therefore, they will just generally submit to that energy.
So apparently in Galactic History 2 there was communication with amoeboids about
amoeba.
Oh, it's an amoeba. I'm not reading it properly, sorry. About an aquatic creature that would begin cleaning up the oceans. Is this creature related to the merfolk evolution?
No. It's something that was specifically created to clean up the toxicity. And that stuff exists here on the surface of the world too. It's just done for a surface version of it. There are things that are amoeboids or amoebid that when given proper exposure to light of consciousness, they can become highly conscious and be given a programmable digestion purpose. Like the toxicity, let's say you have a beach that's covered in toxicity, and you'll spread these amoeboids on them, and they will eat the toxicity, and as they grow, they will have a higher consciousness, and as they die, they'll enter the astral world and then come back as amoebas, and when they've done the entire consciousness cycle, they don't have to be an amoeba again. They can go and be a fish. They can go and be something else in the ocean. So it's a way to take fresh consciousness that's still trying to figure out how the universe works and give it a structure that has a very good and positive mission behind it.
What is their connection to planet Mu? I didn't know there was a planet Mu. I thought that was another name for Lemuria.
Yeah,
quite sure.
Mu. They're related to everything. As long as it's this world, they're there and here. You must understand there are so many different eras of human history in which merfolks were a full part of the defense of this planet, and other time where they're like gave them middle finger to them and said, "We're not defending you. You attracted this. We're going to put up our high holy spiritual shields and technological shields and ride it out while you guys get blasted up there." That's happened many times. And there are other times where everyone agreed, you know what, they're going to destroy this planet if we don't all work together. Okay?
Are merfolk vegan? What is their nourishment sources?
They're part of the great food chain of life. They eat what is available to them. Okay? They are not vegan. That's a human thing. Okay? They're omnivorous.
Is there a particular etiquette to how to communicate respectfully? From Catherine.
There is, but I mean, I would just be light workering it to tell you. Okay?
Oh, go on, Andrew, light worker.
I'd just be light working. I mean, if you've never really done spiritual communication, go practice it on the cows first, or something else that's in your area. Just don't light worker power it. Where's my motherfucking merfolk guide? Don't do that. That's etiquette number 1. Don't force yourself in on their reality. Don't force an interaction with them. All too often, the impatient light worker doesn't realize the damage one can cause by creating forced first contact.
That's a bit like with dragons, though, isn't it? It's something that should naturally, organically develop as part of your evolution.
Sure, that you have to develop, that the dragon should not at all be spurning on, okay?
Do they have long lives? Live forever?
No, 300 to 500 years at most.
Oh, look, several people are asking, why does the Pope wear a fish hat?
Age of Aquarius. Why does he wear red shoes? That's an even bigger question. Okay? Okay?
And why is that, Andrew?
I'm not telling you. We have to research it.
Okay.
So what
No
was it
instant
like then?
gratification here.
So what is it like then? We have obviously the system here. How is it interacting with them down there at the moment? And because we're going through this change, and obviously we're being able to get more sunspots in and everything. What's it like there now? Is it changing and evolving in this last, say, cycle or
So
30?
they're having their own version of political crises down there. And they're having their own version of zealots and martyrs to their unique causes taking over political and governmental positions. They are also not as unified as our common surface world. I believe there's, 210 organized countries in our whole world? There's probably 800 or 900 individual merfolk countries. Okay? So you can imagine how small and fractured it already is. And they're already very much lineage oriented. Let's say you're a merfolk person from China and you want to take a merfolk airplane to South America. You can do that. Will those merfolk in South America accept you in their culture? Probably not. Not unless you bring something completely unique to them from another society that fits their unique culture.
So what specifically technology was able to split them up into that many kind of sections? What was
They did it.
the
They did it themselves, just like humans. Like, think of it: why herd animals collect together. Fish get into schools. It's just built into the DNA that they have a common source that they work with.
So are merfolk experiencing some sort of consciousness renaissance in their societies?
Absolutely, they are.
Relative
Absolutely,
to what we're
they are.
experiencing?
They
Yeah,
are.
okay.
Absolutely, they are. And it is as potent and powerful as our experiences. But their experiences are not connected to us. When our experiences and their experiences can be shared as stories around a campfire or friendship, it is when the Great Awakening goes into super overdrive. So, Sarah, no, politics is not a surface issue. It's actually a galactic issue. It's just our politics have reached a point where it has broken down so much where it's transparent hypocrisy right now. Okay? In the past, they at least tried to hide their hypocrisy. They don't do that anymore. So the same thing goes on even in fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensional worlds. They just don't have the ego as much as a part of their politics or the vengeance and anger energy behind it as a third world density does. So ego actually goes all the way up to seventh and ninth dimensional expressions. And yes, very high density and dimensional beings can have an aspect of ego. It just may not be a competitional aspect. It may be a different architectural aspect of how it perceives free will versus our architectural aspect of how we perceive free will and the use of it.
So what's their exchange then, Andrew? There, like we have obviously the money exchange. What's their exchange for? Well, just the common exchange between them.
All right, so they're a barter-based society. So food, they don't really have issues with food because they can grow food anywhere as long as it's not being poisoned by our surface world. Medical technology is the greatest form of currency you can have through barter. They're great alchemical potion makers because many of them live in the deep high pressures, which allows you to do combinations of elements that are completely unique that can have far-reaching effects on different types of DNAs and different densities. So think of it as, I mean, they have technology, don't get me wrong. They don't need guns. They have their version of it. They have technology that is as equal to our unique militaries. They just don't have it in the high volumes. So, no, it's in their barter system, medical wisdom is the highest valued. But there are other things that are just as highly valued. Songs, music, dancing, ways to connect to the great food chain, how to have multiple layers of telepathic communication within the food chain. So yes, all of those are considered higher value for exchange during barter systems.
And so when the whales are singing as well, are they connecting to all the merfolk as well when they're doing the celestial songs?
No, when the whales are singing, and then people join that channel. Okay, and there are those that are like, yeah, they're all singing. I'm not partying with them right now. Okay, maybe I'm gonna go party with the tiger fish or the sharks or whatever.
What's the equivalent of sacred fire to merfolk? That's a good one, Jason.
Oh, okay, this is known as blue fire. Fire that can exist underwater that is actually cold. That's right, cold fire. They could also forge things in cold fire under deep pressure. Here in the surface world, we have blue flame, what's known as the shaman's flame, where we take rubbing alcohol and you put it into a bowl that has Epsom salt inside it, and it colors blue. Okay, because it's hot, and then the rubbing alcohol. Down there, blue fire is an element. Okay, and it's something that can pop up in certain high pressure areas, such as on the fault lines, or where there's ever special mysterious places. They'll go out there and harvest blue fire because, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a bubble of energy that has a blue flame on it, and they can harvest that bubble and put it in a pot, and kind of like a plant it grows, except it doesn't have a physical growth structure. It's all energetic. And then they can kind of put a whole bunch of them into one bigger space, and then they can feed it, I don't know how to describe it, like this brew they create. It's like when we brew alcohol, they have their version of doing it, where it's like crushed up guts and shit. That's the only way I can describe it. Of other living things that are carrion normally on the ground, on the subsurface of the ocean. The ocean is covered with dead shit everywhere. That's what makes oil in the future. They just harvest that dead shit and grind it up and then feed it to this blue flame, which then allows them to have an inverted warmth. It burns cold, but consciousness can convert it to heat.
So is it a form of life force for them?
Yes. Yes.
Is there
and it's part of their
anything
religion too.
Is there anything they create that manifests on the surface world that we would find even
Blue flame
walking
does
along the
exist on
beach?
our blue flame does exist on our surface world. There have been many deep cave divers that have run across the blue flame. There are Great Lakes. Where I'm at right now, I'm right near the Great Lakes. In history's past, there were hundreds of merfolk stories. Those have all been removed from our history. If you go to the Great Russian Great Lakes, before they were drained, there was also huge merfolk societies there. What ended up happening is those surface merfolks, they went and became total subsurface. As I talked earlier, our entire world is connected by these subterranean oceans that are not connected to the surface oceans, or are connected to them through a tunnel process.
So there's many different merfolk in, say, locks and rivers and stuff.
Everywhere, yes. That's why I said if you broke them down, there's about 200 human nations in the whole world. And if you're looking at the merfolk nations, there's about 900 nations.
So it was Loch Ness Monster a merfolk then?
No, it was a plesiosaur, actually, that
I
hybrided
remember
with
you
some
saying.
other beings and then When it died, it was kept alive as a myth through magic. So it's a ghost, and there are living ones too. Does the reincarnation grid affect them? Yes, it affects them the same way it affects humans. Do you guys see the Zoom room? For some reason, I got booted out of it.
Yes.
Okay, as long as it's working fine. You know what? Let me switch devices real quick.
Okay.
Just 1 second here.
I don't know how active it is though, the Zoom room.
Well, this is where a good time for us to say we are having a breakup with Zoom, guys. We just can no longer deal with the abusive relationship that Zoom does to us. Hold on 1 second. Let me switch devices real quick.
And some great questions as well, guys. So keep coming with those questions. Some incredible ones. So, Laura, should we talk about Scotland while Andrew's swapping over?
Yeah, can do if you want to.
Yeah.
Change tone for a moment. So the latest is for those who are on the Express email. We have an update that we have sent out to everybody who sent into the Express. So you should all have received an email now from Jen, and that will give you the opportunity to buy bus seat tickets. So they are going. So look on your email, look on your inbox and check for that email. If you haven't got it, then just message me. You can private message me on Facebook, or you can email me again on that email, Scotland Bus Tours, 2feathers@gmail.com. We are meeting in, just for those who have applied, which is a few of you now, we're meeting in Edinburgh that morning at 8:30 in the morning. So if you're flying in, you need to come at least the day before so that you can get to Edinburgh for 8:30, or fly into Edinburgh the night before. You've got Glasgow or Edinburgh you can fly into. Glasgow's about an hour taxi drive from Edinburgh. And where is it in Edinburgh we're meeting, Dale?
So we're meeting at the bus station in Edinburgh in the morning. So yeah, get there the day before just so you've got time, just in case there's any traffic or anything like that. As well, it's a first come first served basis. So if you're wanting to come, we've already got quite a few people taking up places. So yeah, what an exceptional, a unique opportunity to have Andrew, Laura, Matty, and expand ourselves as we go through the Highlands and we find our purpose, Laura.
That's right. It's the What's My Purpose tour.
And that's it. It is the What's My Purpose tour. So we will be discussing many purposes as we go around.
Just to relate a funny story, when Jen was asking us questions about how to build a page, and she's like, "So, what's the purpose of this tour?" Which is a question a tech person asked, and we said it is the What's My Purpose tour. All right, so with that being said, everybody, we are breaking up with Zoom. For all you Zoom lovers over there, it's time for you to look at your Zoom account and so you are being replaced. You use too much resources on my computer, you charge me too much money, and you beat me up whenever I want to have tech support from you. Okay? With that being said, we are beginning to set up our own Discord server as it looks for right now. If you are not signed up for the email list, please go to andrewbartzis.com and sign up for the email list. We will also be featuring a watch page in the future. So to replace the feeling of, the closed Zoom room, we'll have a watch page on the web page with a chat room link through it.
Exciting times.
So, merfolkies.
Any more questions on merfolk? Oh, what is merfolk connection with the Fae?
Good question. So merfolk have their own version of Fae. and Fae act as mediums who help merfolk go through a mini form of awakening, and they go from merfolk to Fae DNA, and then they can go from Fae DNA to human DNA, and it's a way to transform a merfolk living being out of their merfolk soul families, and then get on a surface galactic deeper connection, because many of the subsurfacers are blocked out from some of the deep space communications. It's why we have so many underwater UFO beings coming down here.
So that gives them the experience they're seeking on the surface.
Well, they've awakened enough to know that they will be a far bigger impact on the surface than they will on the subsurface. And the subsurface, its particular changes are unique to the subsurface cultures and societies that have been playing it out for the last 100,000 years. Just like our top society, bankers and politicians are at the top of that society, and it's fair to say they've been doing that for the last 700 to 1,000 years. That common, let's just say 10% of the population that has those super high paying jobs and manipulate world affairs.
So for the like extraterrestrial and the galactic beings, do they have a communication with them and are able to commune like unlike us?
There is a limited form of communication down there. So once you add water as a distinct medium, it becomes a lot easier to detect a psychic broadcast source from off-world to on-world. So if it's detected, it can be hijacked. If it's hijacked, it can be counterattacked. So they have to discover ways of bringing a broadcast source that has an untrackable system to the sub-aquatic species, which does exist. It's like Radio Free Earth that they can tune into, and then they can get connected to the psychic ships that are out there, which are communication-based ships.
And do they have any fraud time at all with all the politics and domination?
Yes, they do.
Down there?
Yes, they do. But it's just not linear. It's not linear Roman numeral.
So are they affected by Mandela effects? Do they have their own?
Absolutely, they're affected by Mandela effects. Yes. Everything that affects us here affects them there too.
Okay. Are the merfolk focused on ascension or spiritual development like we are?
Oh, that's such a human question. They're born into the ascension every lifetime as part of the connection to the great food chain. So take great food chain out of teaching and apply it to human beings here, we can be on a far more rapid ascension process. But down there, because of their fractured society and lack of ancient tomes and manuals like the surface world has, you have small cloistered societies that hold information as power, kind of like the secret societies in the 1500s to the mid 1900s. And when you have 900 nations all hiding power from each other because they don't want anyone to get more powerful than the other, that's their particular chemistry and soup that they have to uncreate.
So as we go closer to the golden age and the era of the Dreamtime awakening, would they have their awakening start? I don't like to use the word.
It will be mirrored. It will be mirrored through their perception. Yeah.
And they'll be able to have like Dreamtime synchronicities and deja vus and stuff like us.
Yes. Yes.
We've got the potential to meet them in Dreamtime just like any other species, haven't we?
Yes, and we've probably, and everybody probably has met at least one merfolk in dream space. You just didn't realize it. Okay, I'm going to switch devices back. So 1 second here.
And that's it. It's letting go of that image we have of mermaids, because there's only really a few images going around, isn't there? Like the mermaid film and that beautiful mermaid energy looking person. Do you imagine if a child actually saw a real merfolk, they'd be like, what the fuck?
Well, somebody
That's not what it should look like.
Somebody earlier asked if we were going to show any photos of merfolk. Well, I think you can find loads, can't you, on the internet and on YouTube. How real they are, I don't know.
merfolkintherraw.com. I don't know.
That'll be a banned website.
That'll be a bad website.
What are you trying to look up here?
So
How do they mate then? How do they get jiggy with it?
So they're seeding eggs, or they're jigging it like human beings, except their phallus system is a little larger than ours.
Okay. And do they have many partners? Is it just limited to one? Is it? Do
So
they
are
have
they
kind
monogamous?
of like the?
Are they monogamous? That breaks
Yeah.
down to the different cultures and societies there. Not all of them are monogamous. But they're not polygamists either.
And how many sexes do they have? So we're meant to have a lot more than two. Do they have more than two sexes, obviously?
So they have a guaranteed 3 sexes: male, female, and fully androgynous, and can change to what meets needs in the time. So they are a survivor-based DNA, meaning if the world's going to fall apart and there's only a handful of beings left alive, there are always going to be a small population that can change their DNA and become man or woman. And they could do this in a span of a year, shed off their female parts and become men, which then changes their DNA, which allows them to be compatible to repopulate a world without genetic degradation.
How did the timeline genocides impact the merfolk, and what was their role, if anyone?
It scrambled them as just as much as they did us.
And the same goes to the nuclear weapons when they were doing it, putting those off. It just annihilates all the realms in the ocean. Then.
So they could be in timeline fallout shelters just like we could.
Correct.
Expand on the zodiac trap, please.
Okay, so this may alarm some of you transitioning light workers over there. Astrology has issues. Okay? Many of the systems have large holes and contradictions with themselves. It is why I believe the reader over the system. The reader knows how to get through the holes in the system and the philosophy. So when a reader of an astrological table understands the positions and knows through instinct, that's far more of an accurate read to me. So what are the planetary logoses doing to subsurface beings? The same thing it's doing to us. You must remember, domination and control has separated us into 2 types of soul-based citizens. Who's the most harvestable and who's not as harvestable. If you are one of the most harvestable, you get a spot on the surface world. If your soul is not heavily harvestable, you can go to the subsurface world. Forcing 2 classes of soul citizens, which is just another way to break up the infinite communications and soul-based societies that operate on every living place in the universe.
So it just goes back to that process, doesn't it? That we are a farm.
Yes.
All of the in between, above, below. It's
We
just
are a
farm.
free roaming farm. Our mind is our prison.
Oh, I like this. Are there any other elements the merfolk work with unknown to us?
Hundreds, if not thousands, yes.
Oh, okay.
I will say thousands.
We dealt with, do they have linear time, didn't we?
Yep, they do. It's just their version of it.
Oh, does
Not
the
Roman
sun?
numeral.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does the sun play a part in their society?
Absolutely, just like it does here. Without the sun, there is no food chain of life.
And the wind and so on. So all the elements are equally as relevant there, aren't they?
Yes.
Oh, I like this. Can and do the merfolk manipulate surface weather?
In the past, they were very much weather influencers, and that has waned significantly in the last 300 years. Why? The magic societies of the surface have always been embroiled in a power for control over the weather. Weather determines how fast your population can grow, and if you're a local farmer, meaning a subterranean farming the surface, you need your consciousness to grow as fast as it can possibly be, so you can harvest as much energy from them. So there was a long-term battle between the surface and subsurface wizards, where finally there was just a treaty that they basically signed and said, all right, we'll stop manipulating storms to make it more advantage to us, including, all those pirate ships that got sunk by hurricanes out of nowhere. A lot of that was merfolk stuff, okay? But it was also surface wizards tearing down everybody else's stuff. But that treaty broke down, and advanced weather control technology was put on the surface that was far more potent than any of the technology the subsurface beings had. And once again, they were made secondary class citizens with secondary class technology, and when they began to rise up in different ways, they were wiped out. Wiped out. Just like the indigenous cultures of the surface world.
So have they gone far deeper into hiding?
Yes. Yes, because they fear being wiped out.
Yeah. And they won't reappear really consciously, out of conscious choice, until we as a species have raised our consciousness.
Correct.
Because it's not safe
acknowledge
for them to
them
do
as
so.
consciousness. Acknowledge
Yes.
them as consciousness.
Yeah.
And begin writing it into our laws.
Yeah. Do they live in houses?
Yeah, they have houses. Just not like ours.
Do they go to work?
Yes, they have
That's
jobs
so
like we do too.
beautiful.
Okay, they have jobs like... Their society has many similar situations and circumstances as the surface world. Do they ride motorcycles? No. But do they have something that's similar to it? Yes. Do they have biker kings? Their versions of it? Yes. Do they have
So
sacred
what-
practice? Yes, absolutely they do.
What density would you say they are then? Are they like in the fourth density?
No, 3rd and 3/4.
Okay. So if they're in the 3rd and 3/4 and we can't perceive them, what does that mean then if they're in the 3rd and we're in the 3rd and we can't perceive them in that way?
Well, there are laws of the global narrative that can stop you from seeing them. If the whole world disbelieves in something, can one person see it? That happens all the time. That's called the Mandela effect.
Wow.
It says the rest of the world's going to call him crazy. But when large populations of the world going, hey, I see that, and there's a small population of the world's, no, you're crazy, you're hallucinating, then people go, hey, something's wrong here.
And that's like the stars, the star systems and where everything is exactly the same. Yeah.
Well, related to the time of pirates and St. Elmo's fire, how do merfolk use lightning energy?
Oh, they harvest it. It's how they harvest much of their high frequency technology. And whenever there are big hurricanes going through, they have these we'll kind of call them like machines that are pre-positioned wherever hurricanes regularly exist, that stay right on the surface of the subsurface of the ocean, on the ground of the ocean, and they'll put up these like antennas that will begin harvesting electricity out of the storm and storing it in the machines, and then using a form of light energy wave to transfer power from one place to another without a drain off of the power.
Presumably they can harvest energy out of all the elements then, can they?
There they can. They can, and they do.
Oh, what about their blood?
It is mostly red, but there are others that do not have red blood. Red blood relations is something very unique to the human condition and where we're at. Anything sharing red blood has a oneness factor to them. Things without red blood can still be related to humans, but the way they process reality is different. There are some subsurface beings who have a bluish tint to their blood, or a grayish tint to their blood, or actually they have two systems of blood, completely independent of each other. Okay? Where one can be red and one can be blue, or other colors.
And so below the ocean, then, is it the connection to Hollow Earth? So you've got the ocean society and the merfolk. Then below that, as you're going into, obviously, the planet, the kind of core, would it be the Hollow Earth going into that and them connecting as they go down? Is that like the next society down in a sense?
Ask that question again. I'm a little confused at it.
So you got the merfolk and the ocean. So below them, is that that Hollow Earth? Is that where it starts? Kind of below the
so
where the
roughly
merfolk are?
90 kilometers below the surface is where the line of your subterranean being begins. And there are subcrustal beings who live in the space of that 90 kilometers between the surface and the subsurface before you're in the density zone of being a subterranean, who are also hiding from the controllers of this world. The remaining giants, some of the remaining insectoid beings here, some of the other lizard factions, some which are chimeric hybrids that have created their own cultures and races, and they're regularly being hunted down by the subterranean masters because they're not supposed to be on that part of the world because they represent a way for something to get into the incarnation grid that they don't want.
Have you discussed the different colours of blood on any other shows?
A few times, yes.
Okay. Maybe we could cover that again sometime. Not now, but... What has Starbucks done to the merfolk image?
Commercialized it like Christmas. You know, Christmas was never a real holiday the way we have it today. It was started by Coca-Cola and J.C. Penney's. Quite literally. As a marketing campaign in the 1930s, late 1920s and 1930s. Don't believe me? Go look it up. That's the truth.
That's a very successful
No one brought
marketing
trees
campaign.
into their house like they did there. Beltane was a pagan ceremony in which they did that. Okay, that's completely a manufacturing process, a marketing manufacturing process.
What parts of the world do merfolk have the most influence on?
Like where their cities are? I mean, influence on what? The rest of the surface world? They generally don't want to communicate with the surface world because the surface world's constantly trying to make them go extinct. Okay? And then there are other aspects of merfolk who have made deals with the systems of domination and control to do exactly what they're supposed to do. Keep the food chain going, no matter how much the pollution is.
Can the merfolk perceive the 8th colour time yet?
Yes. We can
Yeah,
too.
obviously.
It's just a matter,
Yeah.
how do you know it's another color if you've never seen it before? It's an experience.
Yeah.
Do they have the same level of messing manipulation of their DNA in their world as there is on the surface?
If not more there.
Why is that? To keep them less potent?
Yes, but it allows a certain type of human DNA to do Frankenstein experiments on them, where the surface world, us, they pretty much banned the majority of full chimeric Frankensteining a few 100,000 years ago, and they reserved the merfolk communities to be that type of negative force testing on them. Because again, they're a secondary culture, society, that they just can't harvest as much energy from them, but they're still harvestable. And they're still needed to keep the food chain going. Without the merfolk, an integrated part of the oceans, the whole food chain falls apart.
So is there a lot of good restaurants down there then?
Yes. So somebody says, is there a merfolk version of Andrew hosting a talk show about the weird surface humans on the merfolk interwebs right now? Yes. Yes, there is. And we can bring him on as a caller if you want. We'll link up streams. He's on MerTube.
Do they go to officialing star?
Yeah, and he's getting rid of their Mer Zoom. Okay. And yes, they have a Mer Google down there, a Mergle. Okay.
It's not Bill Gates, it's Gil Gates down there.
Exactly, it's Gil Gates.
Yes.
Well, shall we take calls?
Yeah. Yes, let's do that.
So, if you are in the Zoom room, it is the only place we can take calls from now. And that is the other reason we are divorcing our relationship with Zoom, because we want more people to be able to call in. So if you are currently in the Zoom room and would like to be a caller, like to ask questions about chat, you must go ahead and raise your hand. Raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. Okay, we've got one person that has raised their hand.
Well done, Sarah.
Okay. So, Joel, we are giving you an opportunity to prepare as Mer Google and Gil Gates. We synchronize our broadcast and link into the Mer Zoom. And going to give Sarah a signal to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hold on. Echo. Yes, we can hear you. How you doing?
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything. Can you hear us now?
Is it working?
I don't know. Is it working? No. Hold on one
I
second.
can hear on Zoom, but
Yeah. It's working on Zoom, but it is not working. It is not working here.
I can hear nothing.
All right, so Joel, let's just go ahead and mute them over there. Let's not worry about callers just yet. We will just have to switch back to taking questions through the chat room. All right, now everybody, now you know why we are divorcing with Zoom. They have made some features, just makes the program absolutely useless to becoming part of a greater broadcast source. With that being said, please go into whichever chat room are, like in the program that we are using right now. I can see the YouTube chat, I can see the Facebook chat, and I can see the Rumble chat all at the same time. And yes, it blows by pretty fast. So if you're over there, I can see everybody's combined YouTube chat and Rumble chat. Sorry, minus Facebook. I don't think I say Facebook's link into here anymore. Or is it just YouTube? Anyways, just go ahead and write a question in that you want to know about Merfolkian societies.
I think a lot of people are asking about the coral reefs. And are there merfolk that maintain the coral reef? And in the Shaman's Death Revocation mentions the importance of red coral, as you do in whale teaching.
Yes. So the red coral is what revitalizes the great food chain of life. It's a magical source of generation of energy. So when coral forms, it takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So when you see a red coral tree underneath the ocean, that's 300 to 500 years for it to create like that. And it turns red like the blood of human relations, through the filtering system that it uses. And red coral is a very highly sought after magical property, both surface and subsurface, because of what connects us back to the great food chain of life. It's like have a direct oracle type energy to the food chain, which allows you to be nurtured with wisdom from the great food chain and how it reacts and interacts and how it all knows it's part of the oneness process.
How many of the mer communities are free roaming galactic?
Well, free roaming galactic citizen is something you earn when you are a highly advanced spirit and soul. So how many of them? Very few. Just like our surface of our world. Anything that's going to be a free roaming galactic citizen is going to be trouble for the subterranean controllers. And they will want to eliminate them as fast as they can. Or get them encountered in drama that makes them useless to the rest of society.
Do seashells have any significance?
Absolutely.
And what's that?
Does blonde hair have a significance? Yes. Okay. Does armpit hair have a significance? Yes. What is a seashell? A home to a crustacean. That they grow and move around with them. Okay? That's their protective energy from the predators that are out there. Okay? Can we put our consciousness into a seashell and be protected by it? Absolutely we can. It just requires a smart human to think bigger instead of smaller.
So for the like fish and sharks and whales and everything, how do they connect with the merfolk then? Are they kind of like their kind of guardians or teachers in any way?
So the shark community you gotta realize, sharks serve a very unique purpose. They clean up the ocean. They'll eat anything, okay? Anything rotten, they love it. It's rotten, I eat it. So they clean up the dead shit in the ocean. So then there are other things like all the different crab communities who also clean up the shit on the bottom of the ocean. And without those things as being a part of the food chain of life, high forms of toxicity will form on the subsurface floors. So what a lot of merfolk do is they identify the packs of crab or sharks that have an advancing consciousness. And they try to make relationships with them, friendships. Sometimes, like when we capture a wild horse here, the shark could be part of their community. Is it pet versus them growing its consciousness? It's more like it's a pet that they're trying to encourage to become fully conscious. Okay, they love it, they treat it well, but they also know that the consciousness in it has to grow in knowledge and wisdom, and they figure out ways to share knowledge and wisdom with them so that they're no longer pets, that they're seen as consciousness. And then there are societies of other sharks and fish who want nothing to do with merfolk. Okay? It's a vast underwater community of individuals out there.
Do they all share the same dream time, though, with Earth Mother, just as we do with them?
Yes, they all share dream time with the Earth Mother, except theirs is the process to getting the dream world is different because their DNA is slightly different.
But it
Do we
still
see
connects
any
to our
mer
dream
people
world.
on the TV or anything, or films? Do you see a lot of merfolk? Does the system
Merfolk
try
in
to
human
stop
bodies?
that? Yeah, in human bodies, yeah.
Yes, all those people that are gold medal Olympic winners in water sports. Vast majority of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
With those huge feet. They've got like size 20 feet.
Yeah.
Cheaters.
Yeah, cheaters, exactly.
So, relative to all of the other interdimensional species and dimensions, how relevant are the mer to the human species?
We don't go anywhere without them, and they don't go anywhere without us. But that's also said to whales, dolphins, elephants, tigers. Those are all conscious aware beings with conscious aware cultures and societies that function different than us. We as the human species must open up our laws and philosophies to acknowledge them, and through our religions that they are conscious beings with a choice and that we cannot make choices for them. Because if we start making choices for our whole planet, we eliminate the celestial consciousness purpose for integrating with us as the mass species generation system that we are.
And it completely against free will.
Yeah.
Do they have a great sense of humour as well, the merfolk? As in like comedians and...
They do have comedy as a culture, but is a big thing. I can't really translate a merfolk joke that we would all get, but they do have comedy. Is it as big as our world? No. Do they have stand-up comedians? Yes. But their culture, if you were to take us back 100 years ago before radio and television, everybody shared entertainment. Like your neighbors would come over after dinner and sing and song and dance from like 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And everyone shared their, that's why talent shows were so big in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, because everyone showed off their talent. And when your culture is based around that and not based around watching stars who you've never physically met give you drama stuff that doesn't really connect to you, okay? So their society is radically different.
So how do they perceive us? Is that in slightly in fear or in?
How do they perceive us? That's a extremely broad question.
Yeah.
They're broken down to 900 different base cultures, each with a different sense of fear, regret, jealousy, hatred, or good tidings. They all realize that they can't do it without us, and they all want us to wake up, but they also know every time they go to the surface and try to wake up humans, they get the shit kicked out of them. Okay? So it's still up to humans to wake it up. And there's many rebellious merfolk who will never stop trying. And that's great. And there's extremely rebellious human beings who aren't going to stop trying either. When we all work together, hey, a whole different shit can happen. What was that movie? The Color of Water?
Yeah.
Okay. Where she fell in love with the fish guy?
Oh,
okay?
that was weird.
That's it.
I remember
Here we
watching
go.
that. They
Shape
captured
of
it, didn't
Water.
they? And it was in
Yeah.
there. She started making love to it. Like.
Yeah. The Shape of Water. That was what it was.
Yeah.
I think that'll be another word for horny. I can't think of a fish name for horny.
Did they smoke weed underground? Probably their own version. Do they?
Do they smoke weed, cannabis? No. But they have other things that are similar to that. Yes, they have their version of it. And they don't really have a 420 culture or anything. Like drugs is a completely different. Drug abuse is a human surface thing enforced on us by big pharmacology companies.
So there's no like ayahuasca ceremonies going on down there.
No, there are ayahuasca ceremonies. That's more of a
Wow.
natural journey. Yeah. But there's
Yeah.
just not pill clubs, okay? And corner dealers like we got here.
Powder will fuck your insides up,
Yeah.
burn a hole in you.
Yeah, I'm going to switch devices real quick.
Yeah, so some great questions, Laura. Is there anything you want to expand on as well? What an interesting show so far.
Oh my goodness, isn't it? No, there's so much there, isn't it? And there's so many good questions in the chat. It's
Yeah, really good
to
questions,
get
guys.
them- yeah, to get them Ed and to get Andrew answering them. I can't come up with any better questions than these.
Well, come on, we'll lay them into me.
Right, when you were previously a planet, were there merfolk on your planet? How common are merfolk in the galaxy and universe?
They're as common as human beings. They're an aspect of the human cultures created by the founder races. For life to exist on a world, you need a large volumes of water, and for those large volumes of water to be able to support large populations of humans or anything else, you're going to need a food chain that supplies that all. So merfolk are the tenders of water. So they're a foundational piece of creationism for human-based societies.
So what happens when like they start nicking some of the ocean water in the past, where they started just taking loads of the water out? What does that do to the
Destroys
merfolk community?
destroys their cultures.
Okay, yeah, makes
Just
sense.
like destroying the indigenous cultures of our worlds. It's fair to say the Avatar movie where they showed the ocean version of them. In centuries past, it was that there could you could have similar connections and drawings to it, but the people of that world knew that they existed. We haven't been allowed cultural acknowledgments of existence between surface and subsurface for tens of thousands of years.
So when they
And it is
I
mind
can't hear
blowing.
you.
can't hear me,
Go ahead.
It is
Yeah, we can hear you now.
mind-blowing. Yeah, that the only thing what stops us from seeing them is our belief, and how important belief is for everyone.
And also their fear of coming to the surface to get hunted down. Okay.
And what would, when you say getting hunted down, Andrew, what would you mean? So say if one guy popped up to come out, what would there be kind of like booby traps in a way ready for them?
No.
So,
They if they made any type of significant impact, meaning somebody made a Facebook post, "Hey, I saw a merfolk here," there would be remote probes dispatched to the area that could track that merfolk's subwater scent thousands of miles
wow.
back to their home, and then they kill everybody in the village. That's the
And
standard thing. Anybody who goes to the surface and makes a splash up there, we kill all your whole family, like the mafia.
And what would be taking them out then? Would it be
Remote operated ships, directly operated ships, subsurface
okay?
military groups, kill and control teams.
Wow.
just sounds like Avatar, doesn't it? The Way of Water.
That's why I said there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
And which organisations do that? Is that like the Navy? Are they one, or is it like secret?
All groups, hundreds of
Yeah.
different groups.
Okay.
Yeah, hundreds of groups. I'm hearing an echo.
Is it me?
It will be, yeah.
I don't know. It's gone now.
Yeah, it's as low as on mute. It's gone now. So, what is the surface layer? So, what's it like for, say, the healing industry there, Andrew? Is it a big part of the Mer community? Say, like energy healers.
Yes, it's a huge part
shamans.
of it because so many of them have had mass family-wide trauma annihilations. That had to be a big part of their cultural survival technology, was how to heal people from, whole swaths of families being, eliminated on a regular basis. Otherwise, no one would want to live here.
Wow. So it's a lot. It's as above, so below. It's a lot like here.
Yeah. Are there merfolk light workers? Yeah, just their version of it. Mer worker, mer light worker.
What do they use for crystals then? What do they get obsessed with buying crystals down there? Is it shells instead?
No, crystals are in every physically 3D living society. Crystals are very much a part of growth of consciousness, all throughout the universe.
So do they have any government? Is there like a government
Yes,
system?
they do.
Yeah, which basically tells them what to do. And is there something like a TV or anything?
So
that kind of
they don't have
narrative.
They don't have government like we do. They've been broke down to 900 individual nations or nation states or city states. You could even call them more city states than nation states. All of them have different varying degrees of technology and different forms of subservient governments that are usually clan ruled. Clan meaning clan leaders, similar to the indigenous cultures, who are philosophically oriented, but also understand the nature of the subterranean controllers and the whims that they have and can do to the subsurface world. They're often in treaties and negotiations with the subsurface controllers to do a variety of things, which is keeping the food chain active even while pollution's in full effect.
So, for the multidimensional beings, when they were able to populate the surface Earth, did they do that with the merfolk as well? Did they
Yes,
populate?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So do they have light bodies like we do?
Yes, they do.
And can they consciously use them the same way we consciously use ours? Like a precognitive workforce and things like that.
They have all that available to them too. They don't have the dumbing down process that the surface world does. They have the killing off process. So the killing off process can eliminate, instead of there being 10,000 geniuses per generation, there's 5 geniuses per generation. Instead of there being millions of geniuses per generation, there can be a handful because of the mass kill-offs that happen.
And is their DNA such that, like us, they hold chemical memories and light, or are all their memories only in light?
They operate just like humans. They operate just like humans.
So really
But
what you're saying is they're aquatic humans.
Yes, that's what I was saying from the very beginning. They're aquatic humans, but they've been made into a second-class soul citizen because the nature of their DNA is the system can harvest less energy off of them than a surface living human.
So what has it been like for your own personal journey with the merfolk, Andrew, in your life and your?
It's hard to describe because there are many merfolk that I've met that have figured out how to evolve and advance it enough where they can communicate with the various communication ships that are out there. So I've met many of them up there. And their consciousness. They are conscious beings of awareness and choice and have a beautiful culture and music and all of that. But we still have to learn about them. They know far more about us than we about them.
Are merfolk, that's a good one, yes, Jason. Are merfolk craniosacral pulses equivalent to ours, to surface?
So, good question. So, they have a cranial pulse that is based off of the pressure of the ocean that's there. They can increase and decrease their cranial pressure because they have more sacrodella pumps than we do. Also, their spinal column is far more hollow than ours, which can also move more spinal fluid. And they have ganglions that are set up different, so their spinal column, if something is injured, new things can grow in its place. So yes, they have a craniosacral pulse, and they can increase the pulse based off of the pressure and the depths of the ocean that they're in.
So are they're more likely to be able to recover from like a spinal injury than we would? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yes.
And how did, I won't mention the name, but how did the thing which we've been on in the last few years and been locked down from, how did that affect them? Did it affect them in the same way it did to us? That is spread throughout
No, it did affect them because it's a time traveling retribution virus. So they had their version of it happen down there. It just wasn't manipulated by the news and the government. We were going for an hour and 40 minutes straight talking. So I'm getting that echo again.
Hold on, I'll go.
All right, there we go. So we were going an hour and 40 on merfolk. Do you ever think you could fill that much time on merfolk? I could probably go another hour, honestly, because we got some pretty good questions going.
Yeah, I think the chat room could go another hour as well.
I really do like this chat room situation. I'm just going to say it. It's incredible that everyone is able to ask questions from all the platforms. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and that's why we're breaking up with Zoom. So everyone, if you're new and you're just thinking, we are breaking up with Zoom. We are no longer using it as a source. It has been a very, very bad girlfriend, metaphorically. Okay? It wants to charge us double the price, gives us less features, and abuse us left and right. So this is a breakup show with Zoom as much as it is about merfolk. So we'd like for you to go to andrewbartzis.com and sign up for our newsletter if you have not done that. That will tell you the new chat features that we're going to be using and all the different platforms that we're going to going on. With that said, we are also divorcing ourselves from YouTube. YouTube has sent all its creators a new terms of service that if you do not sign by March the 15th, they demonetize your channel. And that includes the 16,500 words you can't say in the first 90 seconds of YouTube, but they're making it retroactive for all the shows you've created in history. Yes, retroactive.
Are they doing that terms of service to everyone then? Absolutely every channel?
Well, they're doing it to North America first.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't seen that one yet.
You should have. Well, you're not monetized. Your channel's not monetized, that's why.
Yeah, that'll be it.
So this is our now
Also,
we're single party, isn't it? Now we're free.
Also, they take away your YouTube partnership too. So it means you no longer have access to Google AdSense. That's how dire of this is for people out there that don't understand it. Well, guys, next question.
Well, do I still have an echo? Because Dale might have
No.
to read the chat. Okay. I like this. Do the Mer have their own versions of light languages?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every society, every conscious culture does. Throughout the universe.
Are merfolk able to shapeshift into different suits, or I'm guessing not with the free density reality?
So in the past, they were shape-shiftable, just as humans were, but shape-shifting DNA was eliminated from human culture, surface and subsurface, around 600,000 years ago. It just wasn't going to apply to the narrative that they had moving forward. How can you be racist if everybody, the different form of racism that they're looking at? Okay, if everyone looks the same other than their culture, other than their colors, what if you have somebody who can look like anyone?
That'll break the woke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know I understand this, but do their society follow the crystal spiral or the golden mean spiral? What's the difference between the two?
But we do, and we do too. It's just myth, culture, and history has influenced what those mean to actuality here. Okay? There are greater things to be understood about many sacred geometry, symbols, objects, sigils that will change our perception of how the universe works with conscious application, when consciousness is applying itself to a reality and making itself relevant to the reality for an extended period of physically living time.
So do these merc folk have the same, you talk about a lot of the human technology, so they'll have obviously more chakras than the 7 chakras, but they have innately the 7 chakras? No.
They have the 7 chakras like the humans do, and they have the highers and lowers too. Yeah. As a being under pressure in the water, at a younger age of their awareness, do they get aware that they have other chakras, unlike humans who never get aware unless a book tells you about it. They get a natural awareness of their chakras and how they can be altered by the energy of the earth itself.
Because so we've got the internet and all of these signals kind of which stop us from global awakening and being able to dream with Soul Family. So in the ocean itself, have they got anything like the satellite stuff to stop them dreaming with their ancestors and Soul Family?
Yeah, it's called wipe them out to keep their population levels low.
And sonar as
Genocide.
well.
That's the tool.
Okay.
That's the tool. Yes.
So
Sonar is one of the genocide tools.
The merfolk value gold.
They value all the elements, but it's based off of the rarity of which it was originally formed as an element. But they don't get gold fever like we do. That's a human condition. Surface human condition.
That was system created though, was it?
Say that again, you broke up.
That was system created though, wasn't it?
Yes, through greed and avarice and arrogance and all those other things.
Yeah, merfolk are karmic resolution beings the same as us, yes?
Yes, absolutely. They have just been made into a second-class soul society because their DNA, when incarnated in, they harvest less energy out of them than the surface living humans. That's why they want more surface living humans than subsurface living humans.
So when the Earth was at the time where they said not many people wanted to come here because it was that bad, so was it the reflection of there as well? It was really seriously bad. It used to be a lot worse.
Yes.
Like it did here, yeah.
Yes. Well, guys, you know what? Let's call this an end to the show. We've done a lot of Q&A. We can't take calls in right now, which is fine, which is just another reason for us to break up with Zoom. So, Dale, you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you?
Yes, so all my services are available on daletobin.com and twofeathersmedicine.com. I teach psychic surgery, train people in psychic surgery, and I offer one-to-one psychic surgery sessions as well. So dale.tobin.com or twofeathersmedicine.com if you'd like to book a session with me. And thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Laura. It's been an incredible show, guys.
Laura, you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you?
Yes, twofeathersmedicine.com or my Facebook page. I teach shamanic self-mastery courses. And yeah, great show. Despite all the divorcing from Zoom and so on, I think we can have our after divorce party now. So thank you, Dale. Thank you, Andrew.
Yes. Yes.
And thank you, everybody, for such great questions.
Yes. Also, one further note, the express pay session for the Scotland bus tour is open. So for those of you that emailed Laura that you wanted to be a part of the express pay, that will be open for the first week before we open it up for everyone else. There's a very limited amount of people who want single rooms because we're going to be in very remote parts of Scotland. There are only 3 slots now that are available for single occupancy rooms. Everything else is double occupancy. There's only 26 seats available on the bus. They're going to fill up fast. The express pay people will have a week to figure out before we open it up to everyone else. And Laura, did you have any last words, or Dale, any last words on the Scotland trip?
That it's going to be a unique experience, and I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of planning which has happened into this, and we thought about it. Was it in the end of September, Andrew? We first talked about it, yeah. Yes. And it's been a long process being able to get everything finalised, a lot of work, but it's very exciting to have this opportunity to be with Andrew, Laura and Matty as well, and go around the Highlands and be able to just have fun, just complete fun. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes.
And if you haven't received an email and you've applied through the Express emailing system, then please message me again, either by email or even on my Facebook Messenger. I don't mind, that's fine, because I want to make sure you do get the opportunity. All those who
What's your email, Laura? So
it's Scott Last Tour 2feathers@gmail.com. gmail.com.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure that everybody did receive, because Jen sent out all the emails to those people. But if you're worried and you did apply, then please contact me, because obviously, as Andrew said, we want to give you the first choice before all the rooms go. For all the
With that
seats
being
go.
said, yes. With that being said, we're going to call it an end today's show. We will be back next Thursday with a mystery show. What could it be? Join us next Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, for the mystery show.
It'd be good if we could play James Blunt, Goodbye My Lover, Goodbye My Friend, and the outro for Zoom.
All right, Joel, take us away.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.